Okay, so as she mentioned, my name is Donna Sangwin. Actually, I don't want to cheat myself for 2 extra years. I started ReCreate in 2008. At that time, my son was heading into kindergarten, and they were cutting arts and music and things that I think are really important for students in their development in schooling, and in just becoming good, complete people in our community. And so I had worked in business journals for many years, and there's one time when I remember just being really kind of bothered by a situation. We had done a slight change in our logo, and we had, like almost a pallet-sized box in our office of folders that we had that we would take information out to get people to want to advertise in business journals. And because we changed this logo that probably only we would have noticed, like nobody else would have noticed it, they made us dump them all. And I kept thinking, there's got to be a better place for this. But I was busy and I didn't have time to deal with it. So that just kind of sat in the back of my head for a long time. Then fast forward to 2007, 2008, and things are starting to change in our schools. And I was working part-time for Capital Public Radio. And I liked what I did, but really I felt like I had a bigger mission in the world. And so I started looking at some of the things that people were doing that were a little bit more environmentally friendly, but just also building efficiencies in our communities. And so I came across a creative reuse center in North Carolina that a friend of mine told me about, and did kind of a best practices look at all of them in the United States, and even found a couple, the original one's called Reverse Garbage. I believe it's the original one, to the best of my knowledge. And it's in Australia, and they still exist and they thrive, and they've been around since the 70s. In any case, at that time I decided that this is what I wanted to do, and I kicked off ReCreate. And let me just go to this. So one of my big reasons for really focusing on creativity initially was that my kids were young, but also I really believe that creativity is at the root of pretty much any growth and innovation in our companies. It is a root of happiness, I believe, for a lot of people. If you can think back to a time either in school or in your work that you had the opportunity to get creative, it's probably one of your most fulfilling times, I would hope. Anybody? Yes? I see some heads shaking yes. I remember in second grade a time when we were making these little planter boxes. There was a really nice dad that came in with the wood and the stain and everything, and he had us all kind of assembly lining it, and I looked at it and I was like, I don't want to put the stain on mine. And I was in second grade. And he's like, but everybody's putting the stain. And I'm like, can I get a pass and just put the clear over the top? And so he let me, after like they had to confer about it. But for me, that one small act of having the open-endedness of that project really has stuck with me. And I would say that it really, to the point that it's part of our mission at ReCreate. We are very open-ended in our projects because of that. So what ReCreate is all about is we have a store and studio that's located in Rockland. A lot of people describe it like a craft thrift store, but in reality, much of what we have in there is brand spanking new. People or businesses will get something and then decide that that's not stock or a craft that they want to do, and they will give it to us, sometimes barely used, but a lot of times never gotten touched, and it goes out into our store, and it is at pennies on the dollar from what you could get at a Michael's or Joann's or typical craft store. In addition, in our studio area, we have a drop-in crafting or by appointment where you can come in. We have bins of supplies, usually kids doing this. They can make whatever their heart desires. We have all kinds of different things of inspiration there for them to take a look at and decide what they'd like to make. We also do workshops. We had children's workshops on how to make a dragon. If any of you follow our Facebook page, there's some really great pictures there. And then on Valentine's Day, we did beautiful projects taking old pieces of jewelry to make a wall hanging. And that's a very popular workshop for adults. And she does it, Crystal, our store manager, does those pretty often. In addition to that, we have programs that go outbound, and that's how we reach our education piece of our nonprofit. We believe that it's easier for us to go to them than for them to come to us. So we go out to schools with a program called More Art, Less Waste. It has a message of how to sort smart, recycle right, and then it has an art component to it. So we go out, we talk with them about how to process their garbage correctly and properly, how it makes a difference when they reduce and reuse and recycle, and after that they get to make a robot or a boat or an animal. Thank you. It's like, what's the third one? But these are really open-ended kits, so they have some components in it, and then they get to kind of go off in any direction they want. I often tell people, they'll say, I don't want to make a robot, I want to make an airplane. And I'll say, well, you can make a flying robot. Like, nobody said you can do that. So they realize that they really can go in whatever direction they want with those. So we have that program. And then our Genius Mobile really aligns closely with what you all do with Tech Trek. We have programs in science, tech, engineering, art, and math, all by grade, so aligned to grade standards. And we go in and we'll take things like, in kindergarten, they learn about wind and weather. We take in a wind tunnel, and they have to learn how to make something float up out of our wind tunnel, but also have something hover in our wind tunnel. And so they get a variety of supplies that we use over and over, just reusable supplies. We give them some blue tape, they put it together, they try it out. Super amount of fun for all with that one. First grade, they do light play. So they learn about the science of light. If you've ever been to the Exploratorium, we based it off of a program that they have there. And it's my personal favorite project. We take out stations for other grades. We have a renewable energy program for middle school. So we do a lot of different things, some coding for 4th and 5th grade. So we do a lot of different things for different grades. And that's a lot of fun. We also take programs called family maker nights or family STEM nights out to schools where we put out a series of different modules, and they get to kind of walk around with their family and show them how smart they are, and really do those programs with their families involved. And that really is a lot of fun for us, because then the kids kind of get to be the teachers to their parents. And so our Genius Mobile goes out to schools. We also go out to community events. And we used to have a vehicle that was all built out, but what we found is really most of the things we have, we were unloading them. So we ended up shifting gears and getting rid of that truck. We're looking to get another van. And really the way that program works is we load out into a classroom. So I think Mary had invited me to bring the Genius Mobile, but it doesn't look like much unless it's loaded up. So there's that. We also do scout programs with badges. And we have programs for preschoolers, and we also have programs for seniors. So we do a lot. Our store, it helps us take our STEAM programs to underserved schools in our region. So that's kind of how the store fits in. But it also helps us teach the importance of being environmentally friendly and, just keeping that good stuff out of the landfill. So just to give you some numbers, since 2008, and that number's wrong, it's really over 150,000 students we've reached. And we visit students one classroom at a time. We don't do assemblies. So we're seeing them 28 or 30 at a time. So I did the math, and I think it's over 5,000 classes that we've been to over the time between our More Art, Less Waste and our Genius programs. This gives you an idea of our light program that I love. Those are little light boxes that they were doing. They get to learn about reflection and shadow and movement and all kinds of good stuff with light. And then this is a program that we took out into the community where we laser cut some pieces of just random shapes for them to make robots. Somebody took some pieces and made a hand that kind of moved. It was really cool. So they do all kinds of stuff. Some of them turned into necklaces. Some of them just, made something that they could hang up. So I guess my biggest thing that I try to advocate for and to remind people all the time is that you don't need expensive supplies to be creative. And a perfect example of this, and I'll try to get through this without getting emotional, because every time I talk about this kid, I get a little emotional. We went to a school that was very underserved area in North Highlands, and this little boy, it was second grade at the time, his name was Royal, and he was kind of a monkey when we were doing our presentation, didn't want to sit down, he was having a hard time. We get to the art part, and he just got laser focused, and he took these pieces and he made a little Viking thing. It was right around the time, what was that show with it? Not the Vikings, the Game of Thrones. And so it had like a sword and it had a helmet, and when you look close at it, it was a few corks and some fabric. It was a piece of an egg carton, a popsicle stick, a couple buttons. I mean, it was nothing. Like, we had very little, very, very modest supplies. But the teacher came over and walked him through what was in it. And his eyes got really big and he said, "You mean I don't need to ask my mom to go to the craft store to make things? Because I really like to make things, but my mom always says no." And she's like, "No, go to your recycle bin. You're all set, kid." And she said, I saw her in the lunchroom later, and she said she had never seen him that engaged. She had never seen that kid just sit there and, take off with something. And so for her, I felt like I gave that kid a great gift, but I also felt like I gave her a gift that day, because I think she realized, oh, maybe I need to shift gears with this little boy and have him do some hands-on work. So anyway, we take these kids here. They were making launchers to go out into space, out in an after-school program, and you can see there's like Play-Doh, old Play-Doh containers and stuff like that. Really, again, very modest materials, but super lot of fun for them. I just recently added that photo there. That owl was gifted to us. It was made by a high school student, right? They said that, yeah, high school student that was it was a contest for a costume around the holidays, and it was hiding off in a closet, and they brought it to us, and we were able to put that on display. But it's all cardboard. It's beautiful. So that's what the front of our store looks like. Was I talking not close enough to the mic earlier? I'm sorry. Hope you could hear me. I'm kind of loud, so. So that's the front of the store. That is our store manager, Crystal. She's great. She is a paper crafter, but she kind of loves all things craft and loves to get to know people that come in the shop, and she's just a joy. So her and Marion head up our store. And this are some pictures of our store, just to give you an idea of some of the things that we have there. Fabric, floral, paper crafting. I'll just go to the next slide because it's listed here. Felting materials, yarn, knitting supplies of all kinds, painting supplies, needle craft supplies, sewing notions, fabric, floral, paper arts, party supplies, beads, art books, and the list goes on. I know that there's a list on your table of things that we accept as donations. I do want to give you a caveat. We're on hold right now because we got a little bit buried in donations. We definitely love and appreciate donations, but they're coming through faster than our shoppers right now. So as much as we want donations, we always love those donors that drop off and then immediately go shop. So if you feel a need for a new craft, that's a great way to do it. Just to give you some ideas of things that you can do with our supplies. These animals here, my mom lives locally, my parents live locally, and their names are Hank and Rose Wickstad. I don't know if anybody knows them or not. My mom said she came to one of these meetings a while ago as a guest, but I'm not sure. I guess whoever brought her is not here today. Anyway, she made these felting things. She self-taught herself, and I think they're pretty magnificent. And then that's my first quilt over there. My first quilt top, and the reason that I like modern quilting is that I think it's easier. I'm always like, wow, how do you guys make those difficult blocks? I'm definitely a simple girl on that. This is the workshop that Crystal just recently did with the older broken jewelry. There is the dragon project that we just recently had, and some paper crafting, quick card class that we had, just to give you an idea of those. Other possibilities that come through, these are not things that are always there, but we often get really amazing things. We had a full-size floor loom, a Leclerc. I'm not a weaver, but that loom was gorgeous. We had that come through. Every now and then we'll get some vintage flat sewing machines. I'm sorry, knitting machines. We get a lot of vintage sewing machines, which is, I think, part of the reason why I started getting involved in that. And we also have a program called Adopt a Project, where sometimes we'll get something that comes in and it's partially done, but it's really beautiful. And so instead of just tossing those, we try to put them together with supplies to finish it. And we sell those at a pretty low price, just because it's our wish to kind of get them taken care of more than to make money off of them. I wouldn't be a good nonprofit administrator if I didn't ask for something. That is what we have to do as part of our job. And so I did mention shopping. We would love for you to come and try out our store. But I also understand that you have a group of arts and crafts. And so we would love for you to come and teach a class, maybe. If you, or a couple of you, to come together and teach a class for us if you have that skill. Or just come and take a class, or bring your friends. We also love volunteers. We have, all of those donations have to be sorted. And so I realize we're a little bit away, but I just mentioned it in case anybody's down in our area a lot. And then Big Day of Giving is in May, and we do participate in that. So if you're interested in making a philanthropic donation, generally our Big Day of Giving money goes directly to our school program. So it is focused on STEM. And we have, there's a person from your sister organization in Auburn, Sandra Scott, that had donated specifically for girls in STEM. And so we can do that as well. We did an after-school program for them around coding. Let's see here. So again, donations, we love those, but we are on hold for a few more weeks on that. So I put Nikki's information up here because this is my last speech. I'm retiring at the end of the month. So yes, I know, I'm super excited. You cannot believe the stack of crafts I have from over the years that I never got to. When I opened this, I really thought that I would be like crafting a lot. Not so much. So pretty busy trying to run everything. And so I'm so thrilled that we have Nikki joining us, and she's really, really smart and very strategic, and I think it's gonna be great. So I'm excited to hand off the baton to her to continue the process and grow it. That was a big reason for a lot of people are saying, well, you don't have to retire quite yet. And I said, well, I'm tired. I'm running a nonprofit. It is an all the time thing, and you end up doing things that you didn't ever think were gonna be on your job description. So it's great, and I love it, and it's kind of my baby, but I actually, as I told Nikki, it's like I'm giving her a pretty cool teenager now to take care of, because I was kind of like feeling a little, I don't know if I can do this, and I was like, wait a minute, this is no baby, this thing is getting there. So anyway, I don't know if you guys have any questions. I hope that I gave you a good overview of what we do, but I would love for you to come up for questions too, so you guys can get to talk to her. Yes?
Is that where you're located?
This is where our store is located, okay. Yes. And then again, our school programs, we go outbound. We don't generally come to Nevada County, but if we can get a full day and we have time, we would do that.
And, and are you open on Saturdays?
We are open Tuesdays through Saturday from 10:30 to 5:30.
In fact, today.
Oh yes, in fact today we have, we don't often put our store for sale, or we'll put one thing for sale because we have a lot of it, But because we're exploding at the seams, everything at our store today is 25% off. And so if you want an idea of our prices, which are pretty much thrift store prices, or half of what you would get at a craft store, depending on what the supplies are. We did bring up a table of, Nikki brought up a table of display items, just to give you an idea of some of the things that you could find at our store. And most of those are priced, so you can get an idea of what our store is like. So, yes. I don't know if you answer.
Hi, I have a question related to AAUW. And I had my first college teaching experience was at UC Sanford. I'm only using this as an example. And I have many more later in my career, but I supervised student teachers. I went into, I think it was a 4th grade classroom, and I noticed that only the boys were using the computers after school. And I know that there's a real issue in classrooms still about how boys and girls have access. And I'm wondering if you have collected any data about girls and boys and who is really participating in these projects.
So we haven't collected data, but we've done something a little bit different than that. First, we have partnered with your tech truck in the past. It was pre-COVID. We took some evening events out where they got to make these really wild hats with our supplies, and you might have been about the right age. Like it was several years back. So we haven't done anything. I think it was probably 2 years prior to COVID that we had done these for 2 or 3 years. So there's that part. But as far as STEM goes, we did partner with UC Davis on the Snap the Gap program. I don't know if you guys had heard of that. It was in conjunction with some little electronic pieces called Little Bits, and it was a 6-week-long after-school program, and we opened that it was exclusive to girls. And so if you want any information on that program, again, shuttered because of COVID, but we still have supplies for that. We could take that program back out. We just don't have the funding for the teachers, so we need to build a grant around that so that we can do that. Yes.
And then for next month, the Bright Futures, I'm thinking this would be a wonderful partnership with, because they do after-school crafts, and they, work with the Nevada County Art Center. And that would be some way that, we could utilize what you have here, but then they could just contract with you rather than you having to go out to all the schools in the area.
Sure.
It's an after-school program.
Yeah, that's great. So we are a great resource for teachers and for a lot of nonprofit, like theater groups use us so that they can make their costumes, and after-school programs use us to get supplies. We're just a lot less expensive than any of the other craft stores. What was the homeless officer? Can't remember the name of it. Anyway, so we do try to do that. We also are developing something called a teacher cabinet, where ideas and materials that are specific to classes and easy to use for a big group of people, we'll be stocking that, and teachers will be able to go into that a couple times a year at no cost, so that they can get some crafts. So those are all good things. But yeah, send her our way, and hopefully we can help. We always want to help other partnerships that are doing good work. So, yes.
I was wondering, in your first list of things that you do, you said drop-in. Is it arts and crafts? Can you drop in and do a project?
Yes. So we have you tell her. Sorry, I'm so used to doing all the answers.
Yes, so we have drop-in crafting. We have an area that has like dedicated material that can be used. And you can come in and make whatever you want, as much as you want, using all of those materials. And it's the rate is per person $8.50 an hour, and so that material is included. If you want to grab stuff that's outside of that area to incorporate in what you make, you can do that and pay for those items individually.
Is there any guidance with it?
No, it's completely open-ended. Yeah, and so at this table you'll see I brought up 2 creations, and we have those kind of in that area. So there are I believe there are some kits in there. Like I know there's a kind of like a wind chime or is it like a jellyfish that you can make with a CD, an old CD, and like a strand of like iridescent beads or I guess that's what it is. Yeah, it's kind of a kit. So there are a couple of kits, and we do have our kits available kind of in that area for purchase. Yeah, so it kind of, there's a prototype there for you to look at as well.
My situation is I am, with Bright Futures, I'm a mentor for a girl, a sixth grader, who's artistic, and I'm not. And, you know, looking for things to do. And, so that would be kind of a fun thing to come down.
Yeah, definitely. Or any one of our classes that are led by, you know, an instructor. Yeah, we have, I can't think of the ones that we have coming up. I know today actually there's a crochet class. It's a 3-part crochet class, and my daughter's in it actually. So we have that going on, and I can't think of anything else. I think Tuesday we're gonna have supplies available to make Mardi Gras masks at the drop-in crafting. So we're always
Are your classes on your website?
they will, well, we post them
We're
on the
trying to get
Facebook. Yeah, I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to put it both on the website and feed it into our Facebook so that you guys are aware. But generally, we are at least making Facebook posts of what upcoming events we have.
And
Our
then-
store moves faster than we do, that's.
And then just with donations, as you're, because I'm sure if I search around my house, I can find a bunch of stuff. But you're saying that's on hold, you know, on.
Right. I think it's on hold until March, so right around the corner. Yeah.
And we do take donations by appointment, so we don't want to leave you waiting so that we can't help if people need help unloading or whatever. We have a great little back door that we're able to help pull those donations in. And then one other thought that I have for you is we do have a great kids area that's so full of craft kits that are like store-bought craft kits. So in addition to the other things.
Yes.
How many members do you have?
Members.
People that are working, they're teaching maybe, they're
So
involved in going out to the schools, all.
Yeah. So we have a staff of 8. Well, in the schools, in the store we have 2. In the school we have about 8. And so we, you know, as Donna said, we are using the Genius Mobile to make those trips available and scheduling both the More Art Less Waste programs as well as the daytime Genius Mobile events, and then the evening family maker nights that are also at the schools.
And we have about 25 long-term volunteers, and then we have other volunteers that come and go. So we get,
How do you let the community know about you?
so website, Facebook.
Right, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the people, the schools that we have coming to us are, I think, thanks to all the work that Donna's done over the years. And so it's a lot of, you know, either repeat schools and teachers that book us to come out to their schools, or word of mouth. We have, I guess, a specific contract with some schools in the unincorporated Sacramento.
Sacramento.
Right. And
So depending on the program, we have different ways to reach out to them. For us, people coming to our store is a huge deal because that then definitely allows funding for us to take our Genius Mobile to more schools. So our website, which is recreate.org, is one great site. Our Facebook page is recreate.org. Our Instagram is recreate.org. We got a little thing going there. And so all of those are places where you can see what's happening with us and continue that forward. And we appreciate anybody who talks about us. We did bring some postcards as well. And we hand those out at our store and always ask, tell a friend, tell a friend. It's Crystal's line, so yeah. Yes?
What's your closest exit off the 80, and what do the 3 dots under the TE mean under your logotype?
Good questions. So our closest exit off of 80 is you get onto 65 and we're just off the Blue Oaks exit. And so we're right there, easy to get to that way. And the three dots are reduce, reuse, and recycle. So.
I didn't know that, but I guessed it. Yes. That's,
I have a question specifically for Nikki,
sure.
because I was so struck by the two universities that you attended. I have relatives that went to the Colorado School of Mining. But Babson College, if I remember correctly, has a really strong program in entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship. They're usually ranked number one in the world, yeah.
Okay, so I wondered if you might be able to speak a little bit about how that entrepreneurship, education, and I assume some background in that area, how do you see that fitting in with running a nonprofit? Because I was a serial entrepreneur for years, but my last job was running a nonprofit, and I always found that to be an interesting background.
Well, I think you
So did my
probably,
board.
I think you probably have the answer for those questions that I would want to hear.
Back at you.
Right.
You'll dare to change.
I think I think the immediate answer that came to my mind when you asked the question was, I think one of the lessons, that we learned in the entrepreneurship program was that you have to be able to get in there and do anything and everything as an entrepreneur, and that's the case with, I assume, any nonprofit, and especially one that's as small in size as far as people as we are. I know Donna and I probably, at least in my mind, I'm thinking of something we had to do yesterday that wasn't part of my graduate studies.
Definitely wasn't part of our graduate studies.
Right, yeah, so it wasn't on the list of things that I would, it certainly wasn't on the job description you posted. But I think, I see a lot of the lessons that I learned in entrepreneurship that can be transferable are to run a healthy organization, especially a smaller organization rather than, I came from big corporations as a peon, where I don't think that these lessons are applied. They taught us how to kind of run it lean, how to be efficient, and how to recognize the different stages of growth and what you need as you continue to grow the organization. I'm definitely planning on leaning back on my alma mater to help me in this new role and gain whatever insights that they are still able. I know they have a lot of continuing education and mentors and I can even get some free labor from graduate students that can take on projects to help us in areas that I don't have the bandwidth to do. So, yeah, there are a lot of great lessons just in running your own household, I think, as to be an entrepreneur.
I would like to add to that small businesses are very much like running small nonprofits are very much like running a small business. The only difference is that you're putting your money back into the mission. That's really truly the only difference. Like, we still have goals on revenue. We still have goals on all of those things. It's just we're just funneling those right back into our mission. So her entrepreneurship experience and her MBA those were things that really caused Nikki to rise to the top of our candidates for the role, because I know how scrappy I had to get over the years, and she'll be fine. Yes.
And then an important part of the entrepreneurship, because I also read about these small businesses, you've got to be creative.
Yep.
Otherwise you're not going to make it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So that fits perfectly to what you do.
Yeah, Donna and I have talked about that, and we recently did an event, I guess a couple weekends ago, with SMUD, where we were giving a creative project to a group of high school STEM students, and I noticed that they kind of when our speaker introduced us and we told them that we had an art project for them, there was kind of a, you know, and I totally resonated with that because I didn't see myself when I was in their shoes or high school or college. I didn't see myself as somebody, especially going to the Colorado School of Mines, which if you're not familiar with, it's only you know, engineering, math, you know, and some form of science, economics. There's economics. But other than that, there were no liberal arts. So we kind of shunned those degrees and thought, you know, oh, that's, you know, that's. So I totally resonated with what the way the students responded to that. But the way I tried to tie it together for them was that I told them that, you know, to be an engineer, you have to be a problem solver, you have to be an innovator, you have to be creative, and that's the same skill set that you're using as an artist. And there's a lot of math and science built into art as well. So I didn't see it before, and I kind of had that light bulb as I was there a couple of weeks ago that that's the shared trait between the two worlds. Yes?
Oprah had an interview recently with a new author of a new novel called The New Mind, I think it's called. His name is Daniel Pink. And he talks about the sort of the coming up of right brain, of creativity, how, you know, the last couple of decades have been dominated by, you know, data, computers, A plus B equals C, and that's sort of receding because at the end of the day, of course, if there's no creativity applied to data, to all these other, you know, left brain meanings, then don't really have a complete product or thought or concept. So it's really kind of a renaissance. You can see the makers movement is strong, and I'm sure you predate the makers, probably created the makers.
I definitely won't take credit for that. I think that makers have been around always. It's just that they were given a title. We loved going to the maker fairs, and we worked very closely with their education arm while they were around. They had an education arm called Maker Education Initiative, where they would bring together funders and makers and innovators specifically for building materials for schools. So absolutely. But yeah, I really think that there is a huge value on the creative side of the brain, and I push that all the time.
And we're taking over the world, apparently.
My daughter's going off to school for a liberal arts degree this next fall, and I have no worries about her because she's so creative. But I think part of that is I was dragging her to work some days when I had work to do and she didn't have anywhere to go, and she's super creative.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you're everywhere, but I'm wondering, as you're thinking about expanding and growing, if you might consider the low economic regions of Nevada County, way out on the ridge. The Diana Pasquini, who's the executive director for the Family Resource Center there, I sent her the Ubinet link to this talk, and she was very excited about the prospect that you all might actually come out there and teach these kids who, most of them don't get to participate in after-school programs because their parents don't have cars, and if the bus doesn't, you know, if it leaves at 3:30 from school, they're stuck. So they don't get to play in sports. They don't get to be on the you know, in the art and theater groups. Anyway, are you considering going further abroad?
She's looking at me and I'm looking at her.
Or further out?
So a few ideas so it's hard for us to get teachers out here and then back and out and back. It's expensive.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have always had kind of in the back of my mind, and maybe you have the energy to get this off the ground, is to do a Teach the Teacher program.
Right.
So that these resources that are further out, that they can get the skills and the materials so that maybe they come once a month and pick up supplies for their program instead of us trying to get there every week doing a training, and we just kind of help that along. So I would definitely say we're open to that. I know for a fact there are amazing grants in that area.
Yes.
There is a real commitment to bringing those resources to exactly what you described. So
We can talk about that more and
Yeah.
Hopefully,
You know,
have them
some of
reach
the-
out to us.
Some of the teacher trainings, they have to do CEUs in the summer, you could do a teacher training in the summer and then sell the packets to the student, or to the teachers. And we used to do that at San Jose State, so, yeah.
Yeah, so, Sacramento State also
Yes.
just launched a maker certification for teachers. And so I'm giving John a plug for that because I really feel like that's another way to pull that stuff into the schools. But we want to work with those groups. It's just hard for us to get out there. Like, we don't have huge resources at this point. So for us, it would be more like, hey, let's write a grant together and let's figure out a way to help each other.
Great, thank you.
So, yeah. I think we answered the question.
Very good. All right.
Thank you for so much.